A new 2-minute special look at Andor Season 2 was released on Disney Plus last night, and it had a lot of new footage in it that confirms a popular fan theory, and in general, it's got me thinking about what we might see. And far more importantly, it gave us some B2EMO screen time, and showed us that he has a new little droid friend. So let's dive into these shots and break it all down, just like we did for the trailer. Things start in Luthen's antiquities shop receiving an emergency broadcast requesting aid against landing Imperial ships. I'm going to assume that's from the planet Gorman because a lot of the new footage is centered around that planet and the coming massacre, and I'm just going to stick with all of those shots. I've talked about this a ton, but the Gorman massacre has been an event from Star Wars history since 1993 when I think it was first mentioned in the X-Wing video game. It's become an inciting event for Mon Mothma to publicly denounce the Emperor, making her a political fugitive 2 years before the Battle of Yavin. We see the immediate aftermath of that in Star Wars Rebels, when she reaches the planet Dantooine, and several individual rebel cells join her there to start the Rebel Alliance. I just want everyone to have that context as we continue talking about it, because all these shots of people protesting with banners in a crowded square are almost definitely on Gorman. I've been speculating we would see the massacre since Mothma brought up the planet multiple times in Season 1, and in this trailer, subtitles tell us the people are shouting in the Gore language. This wide shot of a city set in some mountains is probably Gorman, and you can just make out that dome from the courtyard. It looks like several characters are going to be present for the massacre as well. Syril and Cassian are definitely there. Wilman Pack is seen firing a blaster. I've already got a pretty grim guess as to what's going on. Cassian tells us in Rogue One that he's done some terrible things in the name of the rebellion, and he needs them all to matter, and that's why he joins Jyn going to Scarif. We see him in a hotel room prepping a blaster rifle, and I'm wondering if this will be Luthen's next major step after Aldhani. He said in Season 1 that the point of the heist wasn't just about the money, but it was also about making the Empire overreact. He wants people to feel the oppression of the Empire, so more and more people will fight back. Well, what if he wants to manufacture something like that again? By the time we reach this arc, protests on Gorman will have been happening for at least 3 years. Luthen might see that as a very public powder keg ready to blow, kind of like Ferrix. So Cassian might be positioned somewhere to take the first shot at a stormtrooper, forcing the Empire to retaliate, or maybe he's there to assassinate someone important, which would mirror the situation in Rogue One. We could get similar shots of Cassian looking down the scope and taking the shot this time, whereas in Rogue One, he decides not to shoot Galen Erso. This next bit might be editing trickery for the sake of the trailer, but we also see Kleya detonating some explosives during the fighting. It just seems like a very Luthen thing to do to sacrifice protesters to shock the galaxy into waking up. Okay, but why is Syril there? I have a guess for him too. I think he might be undercover with the Gorman front. That's one of the rebel cells Saw mentions in Season 1, and surely they'll be part of the protests. We can see a lot of people in berets in the crowd, and maybe that's something the front wears, or maybe it's just standard Gorman fashion. I point that out because I remember way back at Celebration London, there was a shot of Syril wearing a beret, and in these shots he seems to be part of the crowd. I will also point out that he looks kind of worried to see TIE fighters flying overhead, so I wonder if Dedra or the ISB sent him undercover to provide them with information, but then when the fighting breaks out, he's going to be in just as much danger as the real protesters. That could be a turning point for the character, although I think it's more likely he'll just rationalize any near-death experience he has and stay a fascist. There's a shot of him wearing that same brown coat in a room with a bunch of KX droids, so it's possible this could be the arc where Cassian meets K2SO as well. That's still difficult to say. There's one other shot of K2 in the video knocking an Imperial off of a bridge. Interestingly, looking at the Arabesh, I think this shot is flipped, but if you put it the right way, I think it reads Tom Kip Towers, which means absolutely nothing to me, but I don't get the sense this is on Gorman. The look doesn't match. Okay, so that's the end of the Gorman stuff, but I want to talk about the political fallout. I really hope we see Mon Mothma deliver her big speech denouncing Palpatine in the Senate, and now I'm thinking that's likely. This is a series that's become known for its excellent monologues, and I would love Genevieve O'Reilly to get her moment too. There's a shot of her walking through some white arches, and you can see the Senate building in the background. There's also a shot inside the Senate with a ton of pods floating around. This is way more engaged than we saw the Imperial Senate in Season 1, and there's someone in the middle, but I doubt that's Palpatine. It looks like they're wearing yellow. Whoever it is, we see those white arches a second time, and it looks like Mothma and someone else are hurrying down the steps and they're leaving a body behind. I think it would be awesome to see Cassian extract Mothma after her speech. I don't know if that can happen all in the same arc. That seems like a very busy day for Andor, but it is possible. In addition to Gorman, I think we're going to see Chandrila too. There's a shot of Mothma outside in front of some different looking architecture, but you can see a familiar blue banner hanging from a building. It's a banner you can also see hanging in her apartment. Since her daughter is almost certainly headed towards marriage with Davos Golden's son, I would not be surprised if they have their traditional Chandrilan ceremony on Chandrila. And there's a new shot of Davo inviting someone in to speak with Orson Krennic and some members of the ISB. I assume that someone is Mothma. And it looks like Luthen might be around as well. This might be an incredibly tense wedding. Maybe not red wedding intense, but still. The last group of images I'm going to put together is everything involving the planet covered in wheat and the TIE Fighter variant. A Black Series action figure of Cassian shows that he is wearing a Syonar test pilot uniform. Syonar Fleet Systems manufactured the TIE line, and this still looks like a TIE Avenger, which was from Star Wars Legends. It was designed to be more capable against Rebel starfighters, being faster, more heavily armed, and equipped with shields, which most TIE Fighter models didn't have. It looks like Cassian will infiltrate some secret base and then escape with the starfighter to the planet where Bix, Brasso, B2, and Wilman are all hiding out. In the trailer breakdown, I speculated that Wheat Planet could be Dantooine, and that's still possible, but we just finished our Andor Season 1 rewatch last night, and Cassian tells his friends to go hide out on Ganji Moon, so maybe that's where they've been for the past year. I'm getting the sense this might be the first arc of the season. Bix assures everyone that Cassian will find them, and I think it makes sense that he would do that earlier rather than later. I mean, if I had a droid like B2 Emo, I wouldn't want to be separated from him any longer than I had to. B seems to have made a new little droid friend on what might be a Nerf farm. Maybe they're all posing as Nerf herders, but in the distance we can see a ship approaching. It looks like it might be either the Fondor or a TIE Reaper. It's too far away to tell, but the wings are definitely on the top of that ship. I think a Reaper is more likely since we know the Empire is going to give them all trouble. So I'm kinda thinking that'll be the first 3 episodes, taking us from 4 to 3 BBY, then the Gorman Massacre could be Arc 2, going from 3 to 2. It makes sense that most of the trailer would be from the first half of the season. I'm not sure exactly what the other 2 arcs will be, but the third will take us from 2 to 1 year before the Battle of Yavin, and then Tony Gilroy has already said the final arc covers the 3 days leading into Rogue One. And now I'm just gonna cover some random leftover shots. It definitely seems like Saw Gerrera will be around more this season. We see both of the Tubes brothers hanging around. There's a shot of the Partisans, including Moroff and the Rain, and Saw walking around on what I think is the same planet. I still think it would be cool if they had their base on Dantooine and we got to see when and why they evacuated. I think on that same planet we see Vel and Cinta hanging around. I think this could be the 3rd arc. We've seen a lot of shots of sabotage taking place here, and Saw is probably involved in some attack. We could see him get seriously injured. He looks like he's in good shape in most of these shots, but by the time of Rogue One, he's lost both of his legs. Whatever he gets up to this season will probably result in some major casualties, not just for Saw, but probably for civilians too. Mon points out that his militancy has been a problem in Rogue One, and that's why they need Jyn to make contact. I think we will see that divide grow. There's another shot of Vel at the Yavin 4 base, so she might make it to the final arc of the series, and we can see X-Wings guiding in what looks like a Jabeam freight transport from the Obi-Wan Kenobi series. That could be Roken's ship. I'm not expecting Andor to be too closely connected to other Star Wars series, but this is something I could see working. Or maybe that's just a completely random ship. We also see X-Wings flying alongside a U-Wing, and I would guess that's how Cassian and K2 continue to get around in the final arc or 2 of the show. I like the behind-the-scenes shot of Alan Tudyk in the motion capture suit. It'll be fun to have those 2 characters back together, and I do hope K2 comes into the season fairly early. There's a shot of Krennic and Miro together, and I'm gonna go a little wild with my speculation, but it looks like there are mountains outside of their window. This could be Raven's Peak, Grand Moff Tarkin's Imperial compound that we first saw in The Bad Batch. Probably not, but it would be rad to see. We also know Dedra is going to share a scene with Edie Karn, which is delightful. I can't wait to see which of them treats the other worse. Dedra's outfit is interesting. It's not her ISB uniform, it looks more like something Syril wears with the necktie kind of thing. We can see Mon walking with a Tarsant politician. That could be Villacham, the New Republic Chancellor in The Force Awakens, but I think it's more likely just a random character. The Disney Plus shows reuse a lot of old prosthetics and costumes without necessarily making them the same characters. Finally, we can see Bix marching into a room and blasting an Imperial. I saw someone online crossing their fingers that she's on her way to get some revenge on Dr. Gorst, and I've gotta say, I would be all for that. But that's all I've got to say for this breakdown. If you want to see my breakdown for the actual trailer, I'll include it in the cards. If you haven't already, please like this video, subscribe to the channel to keep up with all our Andor coverage, follow us on our socials, and consider checking out our Patreon page, where we'll be posting our reactions to every episode as they come out. As always, thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.